There are a lot of incredible, smart women in our industry that have an incredible voice. There's so many women out there that have so much to give and so much intellectual property that they can share. And there are so many women out there that want to learn. Some women feel intimidated going into a bank or a brokerage or whatever and talking about money because they don't want to be talked down to. And a lot of the institutions are trying to make the experience more female friendly, and they're looking for female advisors. And there aren't that many female advisors out there.
This is the Personal Finance Show.
Hi, I'm Bo Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. Elizabeth Naumovski is the host of a new television show called Finance is Personal. On the show, she talks with women who are experts in personal finance while educating viewers about financial literacy. There aren't that many women on finance shows, and definitely not many Canadians on TV at all talking about the financial issues that specifically affect women. I met with Elizabeth at her office in downtown Toronto to hear her personal finance story.
I think the very first time that I ever thought about money was when I was a little child going out for Halloween and we were carrying those UNICEF boxes.
This was because we're already going out to get candy, so they're giving us the boxes to also collect for charity. Use the kids.
To collect for charity, right?
It's smart, it's good, it's a good cause
and
too.
At that time, we used to have pennies, right, in Canada, so we had pennies. And at that time, you would, trick or treat and then say, do you have any money for UNICEF?
Sure.
And I think as a child, I found it so rewarding to know that I could go to somebody's house and they can give me whatever pennies they had, and then I can go and feed children or help children.
So you knew the result of this money?
I knew, because they'd explained it to us. So I knew that there was something tangible that was going to happen. Somebody gave me money, and then I would deliver the money, and it would go and help people
who didn't have money.
And or didn't have food or clothing or education.
They could use it to
something
to do that.
And that resonated with me when I was really, really young.
Interesting that you would be aware of that.
Oh, I was, because my parents were immigrants as well.
Okay. Where did they come from?
So my parents came from Macedonia.
Okay.
But at the time, it was called Yugoslavia.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right? So they, I was asked to do a speech a long, long time ago. And it was a speech called Change. And when I started doing the speech, I realized that the biggest change in my life happened before I was born. So my mom and dad met. Yeah. The next day they were engaged. Okay. So they met New Year's Eve.
Wow.
Engaged New Year's Day, married February 11th.
That's quick.
And then left the country.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay, so this was out of necessity, or was it all romance and necessity combined?
I think I don't think back then it was a big romance or a big romantic thing. People did it out of necessity. Trying to find a better life, a bigger life. And a bigger purpose for life.
Sure.
So
because at the time there was a war happening at that time?
Well, no. That was communism.
Okay, communism at the time.
Yeah.
They just wanted to escape. They wanted more opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. So when they came here, they barely knew each other. Didn't speak the language, didn't have family here, didn't know anyone here.
Yeah.
So it was just the two of them, and came with one suitcase, and I believe it was $50. My parents have been very frugal, and they've been really good with their money. And it was always about, do you need that? They were always good at knowing where their money was going and how to stretch the dollar.
So they expressed needs versus wants to you early.
Absolutely.
They would say, do you need, and you knew what that meant, right?
And so that, to me, that instilled a lot of value for money for me. I know a lot of people don't put value towards money.
Not early, especially.
But to me, I think my very first bank account, I was 9 years old.
Okay. Nice.
And I'm still with that bank, believe it or not. And I don't know why, but I am. And maybe it's laziness. Who knows?
Well, that's it. Loyalty is big. I asked people once, why do you still bank? Why do you still pay fees? I'm assuming that, maybe you don't pay fees.
I don't pay fees.
But some people still do, right? And they said, I like my bank. I don't know. Could be
I
that
don't think they
simple.
know who I am.
No.
I don't go in.
Not
I
anymore.
don't. Yeah, they don't know who I am. I don't think they care who I am. But it doesn't matter.
You've never had a bad issue with them, I'm guessing.
No, but when I have, I've gone elsewhere.
Okay.
Right,
You've
for
gone
other products.
Interesting,
right?
but you kept them as a base. Yeah, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
No real reason.
No, I think it's just because it's been easier.
Yeah.
You know, my mother was always big on saving pennies. Like, you know, every
actual pennies?
penny
Yeah,
counts.
every penny counts.
Every penny counts.
Yeah.
So I believe that just because they were immigrants and they were new to the country, and if they had dropped into Toronto from the moon,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how alien everything was to them back then.
That's what it seemed like.
Right?
It could have just been that. What did they do for work?
So when they first came, my mother was a housekeeper.
Okay.
For some very affluent women that lived in Rosedale.
Yeah.
And at that time, she said it was really, really difficult because, I don't know, I think the TTC was 10 cents each way at the time.
Okay.
And as a tip, they would give her a quarter. And so she would savor that 5-cent tip. But it was hard for her because I was a couple of months old.
Born here or there?
I was born here.
Yeah, okay.
And first generation.
Yeah.
And so she would have to carry me, and back then they didn't have disposable diapers, so she'd have to carry diapers, and she'd have to carry my food, and she'd have to clean the houses too.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult.
She would take you with her.
She would take, yeah, because she had no place to
Because your
to
dad is
leave
working
me.
somewhere else.
My father started, I think, as a dishwasher, and he saw somebody drop food on the ground or something and pick it up and put it on the plate.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, this is not for me. This
Yeah.
is a long, long time
Waste.
ago,
Yeah.
and he just went, I can't do this.
Okay.
And then he went and started working at Tip Top Tailors.
Interesting. In the making
Yeah, because
department?
he was a
Creating.
tailor.
Okay, so
He
he had transferable skills, which unfortunately a lot of people, that skills don't transfer when they come over, but at least this was something.
Right, so he
Yeah.
had these incredible transferable
Okay,
European
good.
skills.
Yeah.
So he worked at Tip Top Tailor.
Excellent tailoring.
And
Yeah.
then I think he ended up opening up a pant shop on Spadina, like Spadina and Dundas.
Okay.
Up above I think it was a Chinese food store or
Sure.
something.
This is the original Canadian story.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is-
Yeah, it
This
was...
is what I think of when I think Canada, right? Like I think people building a life.
Well,
right?
I think that those people that came, I mean, my parents came in the 60s.
Yeah.
But there were people that came so much earlier, and I feel that those are the warriors, right?
okay, so
they just picked
harder
up
time.
and went. You know, they were on a boat for 6 weeks to come
Sure.
over. There wasn't, access to a quick flight
Yeah.
or anything else.
So they were like in the middle ground there, where it wasn't as hard as the people in the early 1900s.
It was hard. I
but
can
it was
tell
still
you,
hard.
when you
Yeah.
came in the 60s,
Yeah.
it was hard.
Yeah.
But you know what? They worked hard, and they weren't angry, and they.
It was a better life than they had, maybe,
Yeah.
or than they would have had.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So
But
they're pinching pennies this whole time.
the whole time.
And so you're growing up in this. You're like, so when the UNICEF box, when somebody put a penny in there, you knew that was going to be, that's worth something to
Yeah.
you. Meanwhile, other people might think pennies are worthless, which
Yeah.
depending on how you
Well,
grow
how
up.
many people do you know growing up that would throw pennies on the ground and
Yeah.
say, "I don't care for it"?
Yeah,
You
or see one and not pick it up.
Yeah, I always pick one up.
Yeah, well now if you see one, it's rare. But now it's like 5 cents or 10 cents. The only time I won't pick it up, honestly, in the absolute middle of winter, when I have to take 2 layers of gloves off and like pry it out of the snow.
I think it's
or
lucky.
The ice.
I don't care.
Will you do
I
it?
think
Will
it's
you do
lucky.
it?
Absolutely.
I try, or if it looks really, really dirty.
Well, lucky penny came from somewhere, right? It's a lucky
Yeah.
penny, so you
Found
want
a
to.
lucky 20 once. That was a lucky. I don't know if you ever found a bill on the street.
I actually found a $5 bill or $10 bill, and it was a person walking in front of me.
You
and
saw
so,
it.
And so it fell out of her pocket, and I picked it up and ran after and gave it back.
Yeah, you have to see it come out of, because you can't just assume, right?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, wait, is this yours?
And wave it around.
Right? Whose is this? So, I mean, in a way, I got lucky because it was in the subway, and people are rushing through, right? So there's no way I can assign this
Right.
money to anybody.
Right.
You had a clear person. So I got that 20. But that was very nice of you. You didn't have to do that.
I didn't, but you know what? It wasn't mine.
Yeah, and you knew
And
that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable.
If I knew who to assign it to, yeah, no, I hear you.
And I wouldn't feel comfortable. It's not mine. That person worked hard for their money.
Yes.
Everyone works hard for their money.
That's
whether
true.
it's $2, $2,000, everyone has to work for their money. And if you were to lose $5, I mean, I have no idea what position that person was in.
Yeah.
And that could have been the only $5 they had in their wallet for the next, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, whether it was $5 or $1,000 or whatever it was, that belongs to somebody that worked really, really hard for that money.
Absolutely.
And
it's a good policy.
And if I can see it, if I knew exactly who to give it back to, then you know what? It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And, I just want to go back again to the UNICEF boxes. Mm-hmm. To me, it's really, really important to give back. Mm-hmm. And I am a huge advocate for giving back.
Yeah.
And one of my big things is Canadian Blood Services. I donate all the time. And it's interesting because I was talking to some students, and I said, let me pick your brain.
Yeah.
What would allow you to donate blood? And they're like, well, if it isn't a loved one, then I don't want to donate.
That's their response.
Yeah, and this was a random group of 16-year-olds that I spoke to recently. And I said, if you can give back, what difference does it make? They said, well, I don't know who the blood's going to, so it doesn't matter to me. So to me, I think it's exciting to help save a stranger's life.
I agree with you.
Because I don't know what your background is. I know a little bit about you. I just met you.
Yeah.
You seem like a nice guy to me. Maybe we can hang out or whatever. But I don't know what you've been through or whatever. And, you don't know what I've been through.
That's right.
And the bottom line is, my mother had stomach cancer a few years ago. And the surgeon had said to me, you're young, you're healthy. Have you thought of donating blood? And I said, no, I'm kind of terrified of needles. They kind of hurt, and I'm not, I don't appreciate them.
Yeah.
And
I don't even really appreciate a needle.
And the surgeon said, well, you know what? You really should, because you don't know whether your mother's going to need a blood transfusion or not. So I promised her. Okay. I said, I promise you I will go and donate. And at that time, I was raising money for Princess Margaret Hospital for breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And the girls that were on the team that I was raising money for, they said, we'll come with you. So we went to Canadian Blood Services to donate, and we made it a competition. So who can donate the quickest?
Gamified it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah. You have to
got to make
when you're competitive, you have to gamify it, right? And so we'd go there and donate blood, and then we'd have our pizza, and we'd be happy, right? And then it's like, okay, let's try it again. Now it's just a normal thing. Yeah. I don't need a friend to go. I've donated over 50 times.
Amazing.
And,
every 55 days?
For men, it's every 54, I believe. But for women now, they changed it to every 84 days because we have problems with iron.
Interesting. Okay, so
it just
specific
changed.
to the blood.
Yeah, it just changed. But yeah, it's every 84 days.
Yeah.
But to me, I really like to go and donate because I'm helping save a stranger's life. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't cost money. And I know people are very money conscious. We're going to go back to the money part.
Yes.
People are very money conscious. And if you don't have money to donate, you have your blood.
Yeah, you always have that. I mean, we don't get paid for it here, which is totally
Who cares?
fine. You don't want to get paid for it.
But you know what? I get paid for it by saving 3 people's lives. That's better payment to me than having somebody pay me, I don't know, what do they get, $30? I don't know what it is.
I don't even know what they get.
I'm just making that number up.
I think there are still some places in Canada, but it's a good point. Like learning to give without expecting something in return.
But we never should. If you give, you should just give from the heart.
Yes. Exactly.
And not expect anything.
I think that's a good idea. We when I was working for Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the lower bowl of the Air Canada Centre was open, or the floor was open, and there was a CBS clinic. So they had, I don't even know, 20, 30 beds there.
Right.
And I was in the company band, so we had other people in the company who could sing. So we just did a little acoustic performance for everybody getting their blood.
Nice.
It was a really good experience. And, I think it was all donated, and we probably had tons of snacks and maybe some popcorn from the concessions or something for people. But, yeah, look for these opportunities. Look for the ones coming by in your area. Look for coming to your work. I don't know, that happens sometimes, right? Don't they come to work?
They do, but you know what? They have so many. They've got a location right across the street.
Yeah,
they've got one at Yonge and Bloor now, too. They've got some really good hours, and they've got some great locations, too.
Yeah.
But if you're a larger organization, they will arrange to
happens,
come.
Right? I started traveling a lot. Then they would tell me I'm disqualified.
I know.
And that's so I haven't. And now we're in Hamilton, so I don't even know. I got to figure out the infrastructure, but.
I'll go with you. We could donate together. How about that?
That's perfect. I like that idea. Let's definitely do that. I'm guessing Australia is fine.
A lot of it's West Nile. Like
I went to Peru and
yeah,
other things.
Maybe you and I can't go
we went to
together.
Kenya. We went to Kenya.
No, I don't think we're going to be blood buddies.
But we just went to Australia, which might be fine. And if so, I haven't been to other places in over a year.
Call them and find out.
I'll find out. It's whenever I call them, they just tell me. Sorry, and I'm like, okay, like my butt is poisoned. I haven't
it's not
handled.
Poisoned. It may be a little bit off for a little time, but it's not poisoned.
I did feed a wallaby. I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
He was adorable. It's a little kangaroo.
But I don't know what that means.
The impact.
Meaning what the impact is, right?
The impact. Good. I'm glad you know what a wallaby is. Not everybody would. That's why I took it that way.
I'm an animal lover.
Yeah. Have you been to Australia?
No, I have not.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, it's one of my places to visit.
Definitely worth the money. I would say I'm probably going to write a post about investing in travel.
You should.
And how, people think that they need specific returns, right? Like the blood. People think that they need to get a return on their donation or their investment. And, hey, returns come in many different ways that are non-financial.
They really do. I was interviewed for an entrepreneur show with our chairman a few years ago, and they had asked me, they said, if you could think of one word for an entrepreneur or one word for a business person, what would it be? And the only thing I could think of was kindness, because everybody is so focused on themselves right now, and everyone is, focused on their finances and, whether it's a job or rushing home or rushing to do this. Everyone's rushing to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that if you just take a moment and be kind to somebody, even opening a door, saying thank you. It doesn't cost any money. There was this woman at the subway, actually, just recently, and she was this tiny woman with this big suitcase, and she was trying to walk down the stairs. And I looked at her purse was on the suitcase as well, and I said, would you like a hand? And she said, yes, please. I picked up her suitcase, ran down, and then I thought, okay, I need to stop here because I have her purse as well. So I waited at the bottom of the stairs for her. And another woman was actually helping her walk down the stairs. And we waited. And she came down and she said, thank you. I said, you're very welcome. And she gave me this big hug and said, you've just made my day. And I said, actually, you just made my day.
This is great.
So,
instead of just ignoring everyone who's around you.
Yeah, pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention. So back to you and your finance story. So we were talking about working hard for money.
Yep.
When did you start having to do that? Did you have to work while you were a teenager?
Yes. My parents said, you need to go and get a job. And,
right away.
And so I was 15.
Okay.
And I knew, okay, so this is bad, I knew that the local pharmacist would not hire anyone from my high school.
Okay.
And you had to be over 16.
Yeah.
And I really wanted the job, and I really needed to get a job. So I told him I was 16 and I was 15. And then I told him I went to another high school.
Why was this pharmacy job so important?
You know what? I don't know.
Was this working in the front of the pharmacy? Or actually assisting the pharmacist?
Well, that was just it. So in the beginning, I was counting the pills that you would put into.
Like as a 16-year-old, you could do this?
Back then you could.
Back then.
I think
maybe
now,
not so much anymore.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
My mother-in-law works as a pharmacy assistant, so yeah.
And so, yeah, back then, at night, after school.
Interesting.
And then I started doing the cash, and then
you just like this idea of being in pharmacy? This was like the lucrative position to be?
No, it wasn't. I was
just liked
getting
it.
paid $2.15 an hour.
I don't understand the motivation.
I needed a job.
You just needed a job. Like, was there no like grocery stores or whatever other retail things like that? This was just the place.
I think this was just the place that would hire me.
Okay.
No, I don't think anybody else was hiring me at the time.
So you learned $2 an hour. So you're learning how to work and all the aspects of the business.
Yeah.
How long did you work there?
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school, that's a long time. That's like all of...
Yeah, so...
You basically, until did you go to college?
Yeah,
University?
I did. Yeah,
so
I went to Mohawk.
Right up to went to college. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up in the Hamilton area?
No.
So you...
Scarborough.
You went to Mohawk because there was a good program there.
Took the television broadcasting course.
Ah.
It was the best one in the country.
Makes sense.
Right? At that
Okay.
time,
Interesting.
it was the best one, and then Ryerson was a polytechnical. It wasn't a university.
It wasn't a university yet.
Right?
But they would probably have a good one now.
And
or
they
the best
do.
one.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the time,
So what are you making money for in high school? To save for
yeah,
school?
to save, to go away to school, and just to save. You know, remember I had that bank account since I was 9,
But
so I
what-
had to start fueling it and
What
filling
was in it? Yeah, well, from 9 to 15, you're getting gifts, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess.
Some little money?
Yeah.
I'm guessing allowance wasn't a thing.
It was like 25 cents.
Okay,
You know,
so you did get
vacuum the
allowance.
house and you got 25 cents.
So they started that early. Is that like, I'm trying to think back
I
to...
don't think my parents gave me anything, really.
No, is allowance a cultural thing? I don't know what it is. Where does it come from? Like, why do people think they need to give their kids money at
I
all?
don't think we got anything. And if I did, it was a joke and it was 25 cents. I don't think I got anything.
So you needed to work to get some money, I guess, but you wouldn't have been able to make enough money in 3 years,
but
right?
no. So my parents paid for me to go to
They
school.
did. That was nice. Not every parent would do this.
I was fortunate.
Yeah.
However, when I was in school, they told us to go and get a credit card
Okay.
to establish ourselves
Yeah.
back then.
Okay.
And so back then, I needed my father to co-sign.
Sure.
So I went to him and said, I want a credit card and I need a credit card and I need you to sign here. And he said, no. And I went, well, why not? And these words resonate with me
Okay.
today. Cash is king. If you can't afford it,
Yes.
don't buy it.
Okay. So that's been with you.
Since I was
For-
18.
And are you still a cash person?
Yeah.
Like if you
So
like
when
you
I
have
travel,
to have the money.
when I travel,
yeah.
it's easy to put stuff on your credit card.
Very easy.
So when I travel, I will get X amount of euros or X amount of US dollars, and that's what I'm spending.
Well, so you limit it to that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Even for the convenience aspect. What about hotels and
Hotels, of course, right? Hotels are
so-
on my credit
and
card.
so flights and hotels, things that they've set up that we can't really pay
Or a car
with
rental.
cash or those kinds of
Right.
things. So only the things that you have to. But if you're going to buy stuff or food,
Because it helps
cash?
me, it helps me understand how much money I've spent. When I look in my wallet and go, you have X amount left, it's like, okay, so I know what I've spent, and then I'll say, okay, I'll put this on my credit card or I'm done. But speaking of credit cards, I pay them off every month.
yes,
I've never paid a penny interest
every week.
on credit every week. Yeah, well, once a month.
I used to have 8 credit cards and
Okay, well, that's crazy.
$40,000 in gambling debt. So
Oh, yeah,
that's
okay.
my history.
That's insane.
That's why I pay them off every week.
Okay.
It's the only reason I have a credit card is to rebuild my credit and for convenience,
Right.
Because credit was not for me, right? No, not then. When you have a
So
problem.
you're not disciplined.
I know I wasn't. So I went through a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get through it. And, it just was a huge mess.
That's tough.
But I went through a consumer proposal to my creditors, cut the $40,000 to $15,000, lived on cash for a little bit, so I know what that's like, which is one of the reasons why I do what I do as a coach now, right? Helping people with the basics.
Right.
Because, a lot of people don't know this. Cash is king. Not in the exact way that you're saying it. It can be interpreted in many different ways, right? I always say, if you're going to put something on a credit card, you better have cash right behind that to pay it off.
100%.
It's just for convenience,
Yep.
right?
And points, right?
That's it,
If you're going to get points and get really good flights out of it,
Why
then
not?
put everything on your credit card, but pay it off every time that you can.
Yeah, don't carry balance.
Don't carry
No.
balance, ever.
Some people are purists. Like when I was in my addiction therapy, there's 2 schools of thought for addiction recovery. It's abstinence and harm reduction. So if somebody, I'm just going to buy a $2 lottery ticket once a week just to keep it going, but I'm not going to the casinos, right? Somebody might say. And the purists like me would say, terrible, don't do that, right? If you're trying to quit smoking and your friend is smoking, well, first of all, maybe that's not a good friend to have. But second of all, if they bend over, tie their shoe and say, can you hold my cigarette? The answer is no. It's always no.
I've never had a cigarette in my life.
Me neither, actually. I mean, a tobacco cigarette. I'm going to clarify that. But
I've never smoked.
I never liked the smoke. I mean, is that like why? Why wouldn't you have smoked?
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah. My mom would probably say the same thing. Just maybe it's something that just never came to you. Because somebody might hand you something at some point in your life, and you're curious, and you do it.
People have always asked, right? Whether it's drugs or whether it's cigarettes, and I've always said no.
Yeah, so maybe it's the smoking thing. Maybe you just don't care to smoke something.
But I've never
done the edibles, or
I've never done drugs, and I've never smoked.
Interesting. Could be just the way that your life was, or influences in your life.
Well, my father was in the Yugoslavian army, right? So he was very strict.
Interesting.
And so maybe, and I do work in an extremely regulatory rules-based environment, and maybe that's what it is.
It could be a personality thing. Cigarettes aren't illegal.
No, they're not. But that's a preference as well.
Socially illegal. But they weren't always, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever have a working environment where everybody was smoking around you? Oh, my gosh.
When I first started in television broadcasting...
Oh, sure. That sounds very smoking...
I worked in the control room with the stopwatches, right? And all the monitors in front of me. And there was a director that sat beside me and smoked U.S. cigarettes.
Oh, like Marlboros.
In that room, like you'd walk out. I remember, back then, too, you'd go to clubs... And you'd come home smelling like cigarettes, or your dress would get burned because somebody walked by beside you.
Was that common?
Yeah.
So you're working. You get your degree.
We've digressed
Mohawk.
So much here.
That's what this is about. That's what this is about. But it was credit cards that brought us there.
Yep.
But it's because you went to college, and you didn't get approved. But did you end up getting one?
I didn't.
So you weren't able to build any credit?
Oh, so I didn't get one. And then I applied for a credit card at the Bay, and they turned me down.
Even the department store ones?
And then I got one at Simpson's. They gave me one.
Which is not even a thing anymore.
That's probably why. But I was loyal to them. Because they allowed me to have a credit card.
How long ago did Simpsons go out of business?
I don't know.
In Canada, anyway.
A long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Because was it Sears Simpsons, or did they merge at one point, or no? Were they next door to each other?
I think they were just Simpsons.
So
and then they must have done the Simpsons Sears. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like because I have that connection there. Sears Roebuck was before in the States, and because the catalog from the 1910s or aught, whatever, you could buy a whole house for $1 or something. If you ever get one of those old ones,
okay?
If you ever get like $500, you get a house. I'm not kidding. If you look at these catalogs, they're fascinating to look through. You can buy everything in like a couple of pennies.
The internet killed the catalog.
It told that, yeah. But I'm talking about like the old black and white catalogs, like way before our time. Those are very fascinating to look at, like the early ancestors of the current, previous current Sears catalog.
I have this book at home that has old advertising. So it's this really thick. It's about 3 inches thick, and it's black and white, and it's women with
offensive
bustiers, and like it's crazy.
It's racist. I'm sure.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Misogynist.
It wouldn't work now.
So they show some of them, and you're like, is this real or not? And then it turns out they really kind of just invented a new one. But it's so close to what the real ones were like that you believe it. You believe that this fake one that somebody made is real because they didn't have any real worries about political correctness back then, right?
I think everyone was just trying to evolve back then.
Yes.
I used to get beat up as a child because I didn't look like your regular North American people.
Really?
They were calling me an immigrant and all these other things.
Because of your parents.
But it was like, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I knew that I didn't look like everybody else at the time.
And I'm just glad. I hope that it doesn't happen as much anymore with kids, especially.
I don't think it does, and I hope that it doesn't, but there is bullying, and I don't even want to go into that.
Bullying aside, yeah.
Because that's just another...
Yes.
Just another topic, and that's just too ugly to get into.
But you started in broadcasting, so you ended up getting a degree, and you had your Simpsons card, which we can talk about later if anything bad happened with it.
So why did I come to Bay Street?
No, yeah, well, I'm just wondering, so the evolution, how long did you work in TV, specifically?
16 years.
Okay, 16 years in TV.
Yeah.
And then
I lost my job.
Oh, were you dabbling in financial stuff during that time?
No. So what happened was all behind the scenes.
Yeah, okay.
And so, yeah, it is an interesting story, actually. So it's all behind the scenes. And I started working on Canada's first daily business show called Business World. And it aired on CBC News World, and it was owned by Southam. So back then, when CBC News World just first launched, the mandate was that they needed to have outside producers in order to have their TV shows. I was working on the show for 8 years.
And what are you doing specifically?
I was
everything.
I was a script assistant. I produced. So a script assistant is somebody who goes into the control room with the stopwatchers and keeps the time for the show. Wow. So you count into commercial, you count back from commercial, you count to the studio, you roll the videotape, you stand by, audio, stand by video. It's a really cool, busy job if you're on a really busy show.
Yeah, and just to quickly jump into the future, is this all computerized now?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't been in a control room for 20 years.
Maybe somebody still does this in a modified way?
I hope they do. It's a really
Hopefully
cool
not
job
just
to
with
do.
stopwatches.
Well, we did those stopwatches,
and then
and then one was a calculator stopwatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just
but you had
curiosity.
to calculate time, right?
Interesting.
And you had to remember that,
so
an
go,
hour
go,
is
go.
60 minutes.
This
so
is quick.
Yeah.
You gotta be on your feet for this. You're not like waking up with 2 hours of sleep and then being able to do this.
Well,
job.
we did at the time, I think, when we were
When
young
you're
and everybody
enough.
did all that.
Yes.
So anyway, I worked on that show and I produced a segment, and then at times I was like the junior director on it while I was keeping time.
So you're having to have business knowledge. You have knowledge of financial topics.
No, not really.
No, you're picking it up.
And quite frankly, I wasn't really that interested. I was more interested in fashion than I was in finance.
So even if you were exposed to the finance, you weren't really absorbing it because it wasn't your interest.
You know what? It was yes and no. I took the job because it was more money. It was a new opportunity. But I would have rather gone to work on a fashion show.
Yeah.
I did learn a lot. And it did start resonating with me. And then after 8 years on the show, the CBC took it in-house.
Okay.
And it's morphed into different TV shows now. But I think it's still there.
But you lost your job.
I lost my job. It just happened. And then CBC didn't take the team. And everybody had to get boarded for their job. You had to reapply for a job. And that didn't make sense to me
to your own job.
after I had worked at a job for 8 years.
It seems kind of insulting.
And then I thought, well, at the time I wasn't very happy.
No, yeah.
However, going forward, I was trying to reinvent myself and trying to figure out what to do, where to go.
People are afraid of that. How did it feel? You were ready to do it, but was it really scary?
One of the good things that Southam did for me was part of my severance, I had asked for them to sign me up for the Canadian Securities course.
Oh, you knew at the time.
And I thought, well, you know what? It can't hurt, right?
Okay.
And
what about the fashion stuff?
I still love fashion.
But you knew there weren't any opportunities?
There wasn't anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were going for practical?
But to CBC's credit, they were trying to get me onto a fashion show.
Okay.
But that didn't pan out because of the timing. So, to their credit, it worked out on one end and didn't work out on the other end.
But I'm still curious, since you didn't have an interest in finance so much, why CSC? Why was that even a thing for you?
At that time, there was a lot going on in the media. If you have X amount of advertising dollars that went around with a handful of the television stations, but now you have all these new internet stations that are coming on and all these super channels that are coming on, I didn't understand how everyone could make money where you just had X amount of advertising dollars, and instead of a handful of stations, now you have 6 stations. And that's why I decided to, take the Canadian Securities course. And then I ended up here. What happened was our chairman was a guest on our show.
Okay, yeah.
And
so you did have the connections from the...
Yeah.
You were paying attention.
I was paying attention. Yes, I was. And, I was looking for a job, and he said, why don't you come in and have a coffee?
Sure.
And I was like, okay. He says, because we're not hiring. Okay. And I was like, okay. So I called him up and said, can I come in and have a coffee? Came in, had a coffee. And what he does, which is really generous and very kind to people, he offered me the use of the client room. And he said, I know what it's like to be out of a job.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to sit at home and feel sorry for yourself. Why don't you come in and use one of the client rooms, and you can network out of here. It'll keep you dressed up. It'll keep you downtown.
That's nice, yeah.
And it'll allow you to go out and network and see people downtown rather than sitting at home and procrastinating.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought, wow, that's very generous, and that it's odd.
Odd, yeah, a little bit.
But okay.
Yeah.
So I'll do it.
Okay.
So I came down, and remember, this is the time where the internet was just starting up, and everything was just very different back then. So I'd come in and, talk to a lot of the staff. They were really nice to me, and talked to different people and got different ideas from different guys and girls here.
Because what are you trying to do? You're trying to get clients?
No, I was trying to find a job.
You're just trying to network with people.
I was trying to find a job.
Yeah, a job in broadcasting or anywhere.
In broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that time, CP24 was just launching, so I went for a job interview there. CBC News World International was still around, and I went and applied for an on-air job there. And then I got it, and then something happened. There's just so much going on at that time in the city of Toronto.
Everything
it was just
developing.
buzzing, so much developing.
So you're not even trying to get a job in this space.
No. No.
But you had your CSC.
No, I didn't.
No, not even
No,
yet.
I was in the process of doing it.
This is a good case for networking, in your current job. That's definitely a good case for that. Like, you're always interviewing for your next position, right?
Yeah,
That's,
but
the
in the
advice everybody
meantime,
gets.
I was still trying to stay with Southam and keep a job with them.
Because that's what you've been doing it for, was it 10 years by
8
now?
years with
8
them.
years with
yeah.
them. But it's
and
like
they were a
whole,
great company,
yeah.
and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And they had approached me and said, we're thinking of launching a paper, but we're not quite sure how far we are with it. And I said, when do you think this is going to happen? And they said, we're not sure. And I said, I can't keep my life on hold for something that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
But they said, you know what, let's keep in touch, let's stay, because we want to have you as part of staff for this.
So they're keeping you on the line.
And so in the meantime, I was looking, as I said, CP24 was just launching.
Yeah.
And so much was happening in the city of Toronto.
And how long is he allowing you to stay?
I think I was here.
Space.
It was like, I would come, every day, every other day, whatever, come in, leave, have appointments, go meet people for lunch, come back in again.
What an
then I went to
interesting opportunity to
I know.
have.
I went to Florida for 2 weeks, and I came back. It was great, and he was like, it doesn't matter. You can just, come as you want. And so after about 6 weeks, Tom came to me and said, we don't have a marketing person. Are you interested in doing that? And I said, yeah, I've never done it before.
Yeah, you had never done any marketing.
No, but I thought, you know what? Yeah, I think I could do that. And so I got hired as their marketing manager.
So they didn't have anybody, or they had somebody and they left, or they just hadn't started
I don't
marketing?
think they had anyone, because I went to this desk that had all these binders and things on it. And I think for the first 6 months working here, I was like a deer in the headlights, thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done?
And so you're having to market these products you know nothing about, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wanted to make the prospectus user-friendly so that people like me and you could understand it.
Which is the whole point.
So I decided to put a dictionary at the back that would explain what a
financial
stock,
terms.
what a bond.
Good, yeah.
So that people would understand it a little bit better and make it kinder gentler. And that's where I realized that there's so many people out there that don't understand finance. And financial literacy is really important.
Where are you with financial literacy, like, at this time? Have you changed? Have you evolved throughout? Like, are you investing your money right up to this point?
Oh yeah, of course I was investing my money.
But where did you learn how to do that?
My parents.
Okay, so what are you investing in?
Back then, I really didn't understand the stock market.
Yeah.
However,
were there funds then?
no, it was
What was
to
it?
me it was all GICs back then.
Okay, yeah,
because
you
you
could
get a
actually-
GIC with 18%.
You could do that. It's still unbelievable for me to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know that at that
Seriously,
point
18%
it was
at one time?
18% for a GIC, and then luckily Southam had a stock purchase option.
Oh, okay. So you had stock options for their stock.
And that was my first. Well, it was good because it helped me understand, even though I still didn't understand what a stock was.
Yeah.
It helped me understand that there's something more than just the bank
or the savings
and GICs.
Savings account rate was probably high too.
Well, it was more than nothing.
Yeah. Or negative. More than negative.
I think everybody should research
before they
make up their mind, whether it's investing, whether it's investing in a mutual fund, whether it's a stock, whether it's insurance. Because as I've done on my show, most people think that they need life insurance. But that's not the case.
Not if you don't have anybody.
If you don't have children and you're not married.
Who's going to get the money?
You probably need critical illness.
That's right. Exactly. Right? Which people don't even know about.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, that's the whole thing about financial literacy. Watch and learn and retain.
And this was your policy as you were going through. You found out more about things, the stock purchase option, and GICs, which maybe you started to divest of the GICs once the 18% didn't exist anymore. Maybe eventually you move them around. But not everybody knows to even do that. But now you're working in a place, so you're finding out a little more too about the products, and you're learning that financial literacy is probably really bad in this country at that time.
I think at that time and now is probably equal.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of people out there that are intimidated by finance.
Yes.
And what do people mostly do when they're intimidated? They don't want to learn about it. They run away from it.
Head in the sand.
And they deal with stuff that they know on a regular basis. Andrea Carter runs Wealthy Women Warrior, and she talks about the women's money mindset.
Yes.
And she talks about the fact that we will go and make like a doctor's appointment, or we will go make a reservation for dinner, but we won't make an appointment to go in and talk about our finances, which is really, I think it's detrimental for women because women live longer. And sadly, there are a lot of women out there that are immigrants that have had their husbands do everything. And sadly, when their husband passes away, they don't know how to write a check and they don't know how to pay a bill.
And this is some of its culture, some of its traditional behavior being carried forward.
Yeah, culture, traditional, whatever. There's always some sort of a factor.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is the factor is very difficult for women, especially as they're getting older.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not only that, but I mean, we have to educate ourselves on, the finance of divorce. There's so many divorces going on.
Yeah.
We have to educate ourselves with online dating. There are a lot of women out there that have not met the person. I did a whole show with Constable Jennifer Horner from Peel Region. And we did a whole half-hour show about, there are some women out there that meet these guys online. And, I mean, who doesn't want to be loved? We all want to be loved. We all want to be with somebody that we get along with, enjoy our time with, we can take care of each other. And some of these women have never met these guys. They get charmed, and the guy starts asking them for some money, and they'll even mortgage their home.
Is there any specific thing about, is it like an age bracket? Is it, or just people who are inexperienced with the internet, or what, is there any reason?
I think it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe even, if you've got somebody who's widowed and a little bit older.
Sure.
And, has had that companion for 50 years or 40 years and, wants another companion. And they become vulnerable.
So the financial literacy aspect affects like all of these different things.
There's so many. However, can I tell you,
Please.
I've had so many people reach out to me and say, can you please help me? I've watched your show and now it's opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And can you just take a look and give me some, I'm not going to use the word advice because that's not the word, some direction.
Yeah, like, am I doing the right thing?
I have debt and I have this. Okay, pay off your debt.
Yeah,
right.
Like that's all they really need sometimes.
Yeah,
just a little push, and
like I've never said to them, get rid of this portfolio and start this portfolio. That's not what my goal is with the show, and that's not what I want to do.
And we don't want to talk about products.
And no, I will not. Yeah. I will not do that. No. However, I will refer them to somebody if they need help.
Sure. Yeah.
And I will, like Lori Campbell.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
Brilliant.
Credit Canada.
Yeah. brilliant
Not
with
for profit.
what they do.
Make nothing off. You go in and see Lori and her team, and they will help you get out of a hole or not get into it.
Yeah.
Right?
And Kelly Keane,
Yes.
who's a huge financial literacy
Yes.
advocate in our country.
Is it worth talking about why this exists, or should we just be talking about how to fix it? I'm curious.
Well, I don't know. What's the solution? The solution is
education.
But what if they don't want to be educated?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do we do to help people who don't want to be helped?
Well, here's the thing. Here's this TV show, which is a great tool to help people.
Let's say the name of the TV show.
Finance is Personal.
And on CH?
On CH and on YouTube and
yeah,
on
yeah.
Facebook.
Probably more accessible on YouTube because
Yeah.
I don't have television.
And, there's incredible accolades about the show. And people, I get emails saying, I learned something. My goal was to put this TV show together, especially for women. Because as I said, women, you don't see a lot of women on business shows.
Yes.
It's typically male-oriented.
Yeah.
There are a lot of incredible, smart women in our industry.
Absolutely.
That have an incredible voice.
Recent authors of personal finance books, even.
There's so many women out there that have so much to give and so much intellectual property that they can share. And there are so many women out there that want to learn. When I thought about the show, I thought if somebody that watches the show and can walk away with one good piece of information, then I've done my thing. Like I've done it all. And as I said, there's been so much positive feedback about the show. Yet it's so difficult to find a sponsor for it. And I thought it would be an easier thing because, look at what's going on right now, especially right now.
Yeah, right. This is the time.
This is the time.
This is the exact time for a show like yours.
And I cannot, it's really difficult to find a sponsor.
Some people might make the argument that it's not necessary to have something specifically for women. And what would you say to that? And because this is your whole show is specifically.
Well, you know what? I would disagree with that because if you look at all the institutions out there right now, they've done surveys, and the surveys have said that a lot of the meetings that they have is not geared towards women. It's not gender friendly, and women feel some women, let's preface,
sure.
Some women feel intimidated going into a bank or a brokerage or whatever and talking about money because they don't want to be talked down to.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
And this is what I've read, and I'm not making it up, it's not something that I think that I've been sitting at home thinking. This is what I've read. And a lot of the institutions are trying to make the experience more female-friendly, and they're looking for female advisors. And there aren't that many female advisors out there, either. But that's why when I started doing the show, and I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity to only have women guests.
Yes.
And start focusing on women.
I love it, and I also wish you didn't have to. You know what I mean? I wish it wasn't a thing that you had to focus on. I wish I didn't have to go look for diversity. Well,
you've been a great champion of my show, too. You've sent out some really positive tweets and tried to promote it, so I thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. And it's because, I don't know, when I see something like your show, it screams positivity to me.
Thank you.
I want to use this platform that I have to promote diversity because I think it's important. Diversity of thought and
our whole country is diverse.
It's so diverse, but there's so many things still that don't represent the country. So yeah, I'll promote your show.
Thank you.
I love it.
I've had 15-year-olds say they really like the show and they've been sharing it with their friends.
Amazing.
And I've had 85-year-olds say, wow, this has been great, and I'm going to share it with my friends.
Yeah.
And that is an awesome thing to hear, that you have the whole spectrum of women, young girls and women. And I don't think you can ask for anything more. And I think it's easy to mentor someone, too. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I need some help me out, I think mentoring is an incredible way to do it. And another way of forwarding kindness and giving back and helping somebody with their future.
Yeah. Well, I really liked our conversation.
Me too.
We went on a couple of different routes, which I like.
We did.
Because if we stuck to question and answer, it can get stale.
It could.
And that's not the kind of show I want. I want people to get to know you and then they're much more likely to go listen to your show now.
No, thank you.
And so, can you say the name of it again?
It's called Finance is Personal.
And YouTube is probably the best place.
YouTube, yeah. Finance is Personal. You can YouTube it. The show has a Facebook page as well.
And you're on Twitter.
I am on Twitter.
Yeah, just
at Naumovski.
At Naumovski. I'll put all this in the show notes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
If you like this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. I'd love to get your feedback on this episode in my new Facebook group. To find the group, go to Facebook and search for The Personal Finance Show. Once you're approved, you'll be able to interact with me and previous guests of the show and other fans as well. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Personal Finance Show. Next week, my guest will be anonymous Canadian blogger, Mr. Prairie Fire.